Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is my first ever video on my channel. I thought I would start this channel actually because I recently moved to Vancouver, Canada to study. In fact, I was actually meant to vlog my traveling experience, but it ended up being too long and it wasn't going to come out the way I wanted it to come out as. Today I thought I would share my experience in applying for a Canada study permit. I wanted to talk about the documents specifically that I was required to submit with my application. I'm doing this because this is information that I looked for when I was doing my own application, and I think it's very useful for a lot of people. So before I do get into this video, I just want to say I'm not an immigration officer or an immigration lawyer. I'm just here to share my own experience in the hopes that you guys can take something or two and use it in your future applications. Obviously, as an applicant, you should do your own research and do what best reflects your personal circumstances. So you don't really have to say or do exactly as I am telling you to do. Okay, so let's actually get into the video. Okay, so before you even think about applying for a Canada study permit, you need to have applied to an institution, a university or a college. But you need to have applied to a DLI, which is a designated learning institution. And what that is it's an institution that has been approved by the Canada government to host international students. So you definitely need to make sure that your institution is a DLI. If you are not sure if your chosen institution is a DLI, then all you have to do is quickly hop onto the Canada immigration website. They do have a full list of all the DLIs in Canada, so you can just cross-check and make sure that you are applying to an approved institution. Okay, so once you have been accepted into your chosen program and your chosen university or your college, and they've given you your letter of acceptance, that is when it is time to apply for your Canada study permit. Okay, once that happens, you need to hop on back to the Canada immigration website and download your instruction guide for your local visa office. Now this is important because different visa offices require different documentation, so you need to make sure that you know where your application is going to be sent. Obviously, this is to make sure that you have all the required documents that the visa officer is going to require to make a decision on your application. My local visa office was South Africa, Pretoria specifically. So I'm obviously going to be talking about the documents that visa office required me to submit. There will be some similarities and some differences between what you may be required to submit. So do take what you can from this video. Okay, so let's actually get into the documents that I was required to submit. I do have my notes with me that I'm looking down at, so do bear with me if I keep looking down. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys all the information that is necessary for your application. Okay, so first document that I was required to submit was the application form. I applied online, so I got the application form from my GCKey account, which is my online portal. All I really had to do was download the application form on my laptop, fill it in, and then resubmit it. In terms of the information that they were requiring me to fill in, it was very basic information that you should already know. Things like your name, your address, where you've applied to study, your educational history, your travel history, as well as your employment history. And I think they want to know if you have any convictions before, it's very easy. It takes literally about 15 to 20 minutes to fill in the application form. Nothing too difficult at all. Second documentation that I was required to submit was my letter of acceptance from my institution. Obviously, you're going to need to submit this to show that you've been accepted into a college or university. And also, the letter of acceptance, it shows how much your tuition fees is going to be for your studies. So that's going to be a very important aspect when you're going to need to prove how much funds you're meant to show for your application, which we will talk about later on in the video. Third document that I was required to submit was a copy of my passport, specifically the page that shows my date of birth and any other pages that show stamps or visas. One thing a visa officer really likes to see is if you are a well-traveled individual, because to them that proves that you've previously traveled outside your country and you've subsequently come back after whatever activities that you were doing outside your country. Obviously, it's not a deal breaker if you haven't traveled outside your country before, but it's something that can strengthen your application. If you are like me and you have an old passport that shows all your travel history, then I encourage you to include that in this section as well, together with your current passport. Again, it's something that can be very important to the visa officer. But yeah, try your best to have traveled outside your country, even if it means taking a small trip to a neighboring country. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Just having a stamp that shows you've traveled is very good. Next documentation I was required to submit was a digital photo. In this day and age, it's very easy to take a photo, especially if you've got a phone. I literally just took one with my phone, made sure that the dimensions were correct, and submitted it, and they seem to be okay with that. Next documentation I was required to submit was a family information form. So with this form, they wanted to know the occupation and the addresses of my parents, my siblings, and spouse if I had one. I believe they want to know this information to be able to confirm your identity and the identity of your relatives in future applications. So make sure you are being honest about who your siblings and your parents are. And not only do they want to know who your blood siblings are, they also want to know who your half siblings are as well. Again, make sure you are not omitting anyone, because one thing you don't want to happen is for them to find out you are lying and they ban you from coming to Canada. I mean, that's literally the opposite of what you're trying to do here. But yeah, that was pretty much it with the family information form. Sixth document I was required to submit was a medical examination. Now, I come from a country that requires me to be medically examined before entering Canada to study for more than 6 months. So I obviously had to do a medical examination. There are two ways of going about this medical examination. The first way is submitting a medical request form, which is just a form that tells the visa officer that you are going to require a medical examination. Well, you will require a medical examination, but you will only do it at the request of the visa officer. So you would submit your application, and then a couple of weeks later you would get a notification or a message from the visa officer telling you that you can go get your medical examination done, and you'd go get it done, get your results, and then send it back to the visa officer to make a final decision on your application. The second option is to do an upfront medical examination. So that is getting the medical examination done before you submit your application, getting the results, and then submitting this form called the information form that you get from the doctor. And that's pretty much it. The visa officer doesn't have to come back to you to get your medical examination done. Personally, I believe the second option, which is the upfront medical examination, is the best bet for you, because one thing people don't know is that your processing time for your visa application begins when the visa officer has your study permit, well, not study permit, has your biometrics and your medical examination results. So making sure that the visa officer has all the required documents to make a decision on your application can really significantly reduce the waiting time on your application. In terms of the medical examination itself, a lot of people don't talk about what actually happens. It is actually a full body exam. They check your height, your weight, your eyesight, they check your blood pressure, they check if your spinal cord is aligned properly, they check your reflexes, they take a urine sample, blood sample, x-ray, it's the whole shebang. So be prepared to be there for maybe a full day, depending on how fast and busy your doctor is going to be. But yeah, it is the real deal. So yeah, just be prepared for that. Seventh document that I was required to submit was a proof of financial means. With this documentation, I was required to show funds for at least 1 year of my studies, which is 1 year of my tuition fees, plus 10,000 Canadian dollars for living expenses, plus 2,000 Canadian dollars for travel expenses. Now I know there's so many different ways of proving your funds, but the way I did it is that I got my sponsor to pay for my tuition fees for the first year in full, and I provided the receipts of those payments, and then the remaining 12,000 Canadian dollars, which was for the living expenses and the travel expenses, I got my sponsor to provide bank statements to show that the money was available in the account and had been in the account for the past 4 months. Another thing that I realized and noticed from my own research is that the requirement is to show a minimum of 1 year of funds for your whole stay, but sometimes showing that one minimum is not enough. You need to go over and beyond that and prove to them that you're going to be able to fund your stay beyond that first year of your studies. So on top of those documents that I just mentioned, I got my sponsor to provide pay slips and an employment letter just to prove that they were working and receiving a steady income. And then just to seal everything together, I got my sponsor to write a letter that basically confirmed that they will be funding my stay. Okay, so one thing that's very, very important is to show proof that you're going to be able to get funds without working in Canada for the remaining years of your study, if you're going to be studying for more than a year. Another thing that I noticed about showing bank statements from other people's videos is that they say if you're going to show a bank account you have, for example, 30,000 Canadian dollars, it should be in your account and it should be untouched for the previous 6 months. Personally, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think it's important for it to be untouched for the past 6 months. The most important thing is to obviously have the money available in your account. But the reason why they want to see such a long period of time is they want to make sure that the money is not just dropping into your account from out of nowhere. Your money should be coming from a legitimate source. It shouldn't be borrowed from friends and family to make it seem like you have the funds when you don't. So make sure that your transactions are consistent, and also give an explanation where the money has come from in your SOP as well. But yeah, that's all I really have to say for proof of funds. Again, there are many ways of showing your funds, and it just depends on your personal circumstances again. Eighth and final document that I was required to submit was SOP, or Statement of Purpose, or Study Plan. Now this is probably the most important document out of the whole application, because this is a document that the visa officer is going to use to ultimately make the decision on your application. So make sure you are taking your SOP writing very seriously, and you're taking your time and making sure that you are including all the information that you should be including. I'm not going to go into too much detail on how to write an SOP because I have another video on that goes into great detail on that. But what I will say is that your SOP should reflect and highlight your educational background, your future goals, your financial capabilities, and your incentives of wanting to go back home. Because at the end of the day, as a student, your intentions should be to want to go back home after you are finished studying. There should be no mention of staying in Canada and looking for a job or anything like that. Just some other things that I did include in my application. I did include my transcripts and my certificates from my previous education just to prove everything that I'd said in my SOP about my previous education. That's something that you definitely need to include as well, which are your transcripts and your certificates. But yeah, after I submitted my application online, the following day I was invited to submit my biometrics. I made an appointment, and the following day I did it. It wasn't that much of a hassle, but then again, it could be different for you. But yeah, after that, the dreaded waiting time began. I think I was very fortunate in the fact that from the time I submitted my application online to the time I actually had my passport with a stamped visa, only 10 weeks have gone by. I know there are many people that go 4 to 8 months without receiving a response from the visa officer, which is very unfortunate, but sometimes they do take a long time. And this is the reason why I say it's very important to do an upfront medical examination, because you never really know how long your application is going to take, and just do your best in trying to reduce that waiting time as much as possible. Personally, for me, this application process was a very stressful thing that I had to go through. It induced a lot of anxiety. But one thing that really helped me throughout the whole process was interacting with different people on this forum called the Canada Immigration Forum. It's basically just a space where people who've applied for Canada visas, like work permits or study permits, they just interact with each other and share their personal experiences. So if you are going through something with the application, or you are wanting someone to answer a question that you may have, then you can go onto the Canada Immigration website and ask and talk to people. Again, these are just regular people, so do take the advice with a pinch of salt. But you never know, there could be someone who has gone through a similar situation that you're going through, that they could give you advice on how they overcame it, and you could use that in your own application. But yeah, but there's just something about interacting with people who are going through something that you're going through that is calming and relaxing. I know that definitely helped me over the 10 weeks of waiting for a response. But yeah, that is all I have for this video. I hope you have learned something new and can take away a few things to use in your future applications. Obviously, all the best with the applications. I hope you have a fruitful response from the Canada Immigration Office. And thanks so much for watching. I will be having more videos on my own personal experience with my application and my experience here in Vancouver. So do keep an eye out for more videos, and thank you so much for watching.